Kashmir conference was organized by a group called United Canadian Pakistani Volunteers in Mississauga. The organizers claim to talk about human sufferings in Indian Kashmir, but critics comment that the conference was focused more by Pakistani Kashmiri point of view.
I am honored to welcome you all on behalf of the Political Action Committee for Canadian Muslims and our team at EFLN. So thank you so much. The response over here is very overwhelming, and it reinstates my faith and our faith in humanity. It also corroborates that if you choose the right path and if you stand up against brutality, then you're not alone. So thank you so much for being here today.
We are doing this movement just to support the humanitarian cause and to stop the genocide, everyday genocide that's happening in Kashmir. So that's pretty much my reason.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, this is Maruk. The reason for me being here today is we all are aware of the Kashmir issue, whatever is happening in Kashmir. We are seeing all brutal acts over there happening every day. And that's heartbreaking. I think we all should stand up and stand up for the cause and acknowledge our higher people that we are here to support them, and we will be here, and at least they will acknowledge that. Thank you. I'll call upon Mr. Imran Noor right now for presenting a video for you guys. Thank you.
मुझे कहा गया कि सबसे पहले आपने कश्मीर की ग्राउंड रियलिटी बयान करनी है. मैंने कहा कि आपने ग्राउंड रियलिटी बयान करने के लिए चुना तो एक कश्मीरी को चुना, जो कि बहुत मुश्किल है कि कश्मीर की ग्राउंड रियलिटी मुझे बयान करनी है. मुझे उस जगह की रियलिटी बयान करनी है जिसके लिए ये लिखा गया, मैं पढ़ा था, द बर्निंग पैराडाइज. वो कश्मीर के लिए कहा जाता है कि कश्मीर एक जन्नत है, लेकिन मुझे लगता नहीं है कि कश्मीर में कोई जन्नत वाली बात बची है. कश्मीर एक जहन्नुम का मंज़र पेश कर रहा है, और वो इंडियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी कश्मीर के अंदर जो जुल्म और सितम ढा रहे हैं, जो ब्रुटैलिटी वहाँ पे हो रही है. आज सुबह आर्यन ने कोई आर्टिकल या कुछ शेयर किया तो मैं पढ़ रहा था कि वहाँ पे पिछले 42 डेज़ के अंदर 1.3 मिलियन पैलेट्स फायर किए गए हैं. सो यू कैन इमेजिन व्हाट्स गोइंग ऑन देयर. जहाँ पे 1.3 मिलियन पैलेट्स फायर किए गए हैं तो वहाँ पे सैकड़ों की तादाद में, हज़ारों की तादाद में बच्चे अपनी आई साइट से महरूम हो गए हैं. दे कैन नॉट वॉच, वो अब ज़िंदगी में कभी दोबारा देख नहीं सकेंगे. वहाँ पे 70 से ज़्यादा लोग पिछले 42 डेज़ के अंदर शहीद हो गए हैं. जवान, आज सुबह, आज के दिन की मैं बात बताऊँ आपको, तो इरफान नाम का एक लड़का, आप उसको देखें, ये 2 दिन पहले जो उन्होंने वो शब्बीर अहमद को घर के अंदर से उठाकर ले गए, उसको मारा है. लेक्चरर था वो लड़का, मुझसे 5 साल छोटा, 30 साल का वो जवान, और उसका एक भाई अभी भी हॉस्पिटल के अंदर है. तो वहाँ पे आर्मी रेड करती है. 60 से 70 आर्मी वाले, मैं इस इंडियन आर्मी को इंडियन आर्मी कहता हूँ. आर्मी की एक डिग्निटी होती है, एक रिस्पेक्ट होती है, कोई रूल्स होते हैं. आर्मी पूरी दुनिया में जहाँ भी होती है, 2 के वॉर्स होती हैं, वॉर जोन्स होते हैं, सारी चीज़ें होती हैं. लेकिन जो इंडियन आर्मी कश्मीर के अंदर कर रही है, वो पूरी दुनिया में आपको वो मिसाल कहीं नहीं मिलेगी.
Pleasure to have you all here. सबके अपने emotions होते हैं, and we are all very emotional people. We are all human beings. And when we come from certain sort of ground realities, sometimes we cannot control our emotions, right? And we cannot see the right from wrong and wrong from right. The purpose of the gathering today here is basically to see how, as a Canadian, we can look into the issue and the crisis in Kashmir, especially the recent crisis in Kashmir. And the way we see human rights violation there, that is there any role we can play as a Canadian, as a peace broker, to stop the human rights violation? I know the Kashmir cause is very near and dear to many, and we all come from various backgrounds where we may look at it as a territorial issue. We may also look at it as a religious issue, but more importantly, and what we need to be focused at is the humanitarian issue, the humanitarian cause, and I think that's what we need to move forward with. We know that there are various stakeholders to Kashmir, including China, Pakistan, India, and what happened in partition. There's no point getting into it at this moment when people are dying, because when we start bleeding, the first thing is to bandage and stop the bleeding right now. And kids are dying, women are dying, children are dying, and usually we say that either country will decide, or both countries will decide, or UN will decide, or let the Kashmiris decide. But what I say, what do you say to the kid who's 4 years old and dies? Does that kid have a right to decide? Or does that kid have the ability to decide कि वो कश्मीर के साथ रहेगा या वो इंडिया के साथ या पाकिस्तान के साथ, किसके साथ रहना है उसको? What we need to do, we need to give a chance to that kid to grow up. अगर वो जिंदा बचेगा तो कल को उसकी आवाज़ आएगी, and that's what we are doing. There's a heinous genocide is happening. अब चाहे उसको insurgency कहें, चाहे आप उसको resistance कहें, चाहे आप occupied कश्मीर कहें, चाहे पाकिस्तान occupied कहें या Indian administrated कहें. There's nothing in the words. That's what we're doing. We're just playing with the words. ठीक है? ना सियासत में इंसानियत है, ठीक है ना? ना उस territory में, ना region के अंदर. This is all secondary. Politics is secondary. Regional stakes are secondary. The most important thing is the lives of the Kashmiris, the people who are living in the region. And आज की जो conference है, उसका main focus ये है कि how we as Canadian can move forward and find the human rights aspect to it and see how can we stop the human rights violation.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I would like to thank the organizers for arranging this program. I'm not going to go into all the details of the background or the history of why we have this problem. I think Imran Saab has spoken very well, very emotionally and powerfully. What I'd like to say to every one of us is that when we want to tackle a particular issue, first of all, we must understand what is the problem before we can find a solution to the problem. Okay, let me give only the legal aspect of it. I'm not going to go into the other aspect. The legal aspect is that according to international law, and I'm going to give specific articles of international law so that every one of us is clear, India is an occupying power in Kashmir. Regardless of whether it belongs to India or doesn't, India is an occupying power. This is based on Article 42 of 1907 Hague Convention, number one. Secondly, Article 2 of the 4 Geneva Conventions also establish India as an occupying power. Number 3, the UN Charter, as well as the law that is referred to, and I know that there are a number of lawyers, jus ad bellum confirms India as an occupying power. So this is according to international law. Now, the occupying power has certain obligations under international law. And these are that it cannot oppress the people, it cannot kill the people, it cannot deny them food, medicines, or any other rights that international law provides them. Whether we can skirt around the issues and say, well, this and that, but the fact is that India is guilty of violations under international law. As far as the Pakistani side of Kashmir, to the best of my knowledge, I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, to the best of my knowledge, in the last 70 years, I haven't heard of any uprisings in Azad Kashmir. I haven't heard of any killings of the Kashmiris living over there. In fact, there have been people that have been forced from Indian-occupied Kashmir. In fact, right at the time of partition, about 237,000 people were forced out of Indian-occupied Kashmir, and they are still living in what is referred to as Azad Kashmir. So if there is any oppression, for instance, in Azad Kashmir, by all means, I think this would apply equally. But the fact is that nothing like that is happening in Azad Kashmir, so I think let's not muddy the issue on that basis, please. Also, and there are nearly a dozen United Nations Security Council resolutions, okay, not just General Assembly resolutions, Security Council resolutions, starting with the first resolution that was passed in the Security Council on January 13, 1948, resolution number 38. It was followed a week later by resolution number 39 in the Security Council, then passed on April 21st, resolution number 47 on April 21st, 1948. And what did that resolution say? There were a number of factors in the number of statements. Number 1, that there should be an immediate ceasefire. Number 2, that both India and Pakistan must withdraw their forces from Kashmir. Both of them. This is in the resolution. Go and read it. In fact, I've got a copy of the resolution. If anybody is interested, I'll give it to you. Number 3, that once law and order has been restored, there should be a plebiscite in Kashmir under United Nations supervision. Has any plebiscite taken place over there? The Indian leaders, starting from Nehru, starting from his first statement on November the 2nd, 1947, when he said in front of the world, the whole world, not just to Pakistan, but he said it on Indian radio, and he said, we give this pledge not only to the people of Kashmir, we give it to the international community as well as the United Nations, that a referendum would be held. We have decided that a referendum would be held in Kashmir, and the Kashmiri people must decide their own future. Okay, that's what Nehru's statement is of November the 2nd, 1947. And Nehru then repeated the same pledge repeatedly a number of times until about 1952. And then from there on, the Indian ruler started to backslide. So this is the Security Council resolutions. In fact, as the organizers say that they're talking about human rights violations, in Kashmir, it is documented that since 1989, more than 11,000 women have been raped. You can check Human Rights Watch. You can even check Indian human rights organizations that have documented these things. In fact, there was a conference held in Srinagar at the Medical College on May the 11th of 2015, and the Department of Forensics and Toxicology, they revealed that in 2014, there were more than 3,500 women that were raped in Kashmir in the year 2014. That is only, unfortunately, this is the reality. Unfortunately, this is the grim reality that we are facing. And these doctors also revealed that despite the fact that more than 3,500 women had registered cases, they said that this is not the actual number. Because we know Muslim women do not wish to carry this stigma. They want to subdue this kinds of information. They don't want to go to the police. And they said they found out that out of 3,500 registered cases, there was only one person out of 3,500 cases who was convicted. What incentive is there for any woman who suffers this grievous harm that she would go to the police when in fact she would face the police harassment as well in such cases? In 2015, there were 3,935 cases of rape, registered cases of rape. So we can see the horrors that are taking place over there. What has happened recently, of course, there has been some international reaction. For instance, on July the 17th, the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon actually issued a statement. He said that he calls upon India and Pakistan to initiate a dialogue. He, in fact, expressed concern over the killings that were taking place over there. And he said he was willing to offer his good offices for India and Pakistan and the Kashmiri leadership to sit together and resolve this thing. Pakistan welcomed it, India rejected it. Number two, US President Barack Obama also issued a statement expressing deep concern over what is going on in Kashmir. On July 28th, there were 850 international intellectuals led by Noam Chomsky, well-known international figure, MIT professor of linguistics, and a number of actually Indian writers as well, and I'll give you their names. And this is published in the Guardian newspaper, by the way. People keep on saying that, there is no evidence. I've got all the evidence. I'll provide it to you, my friend, don't worry about it. This is published in the Guardian newspaper of July the 28th, and the Indian professors include Natasha Kaul, who teaches at University of Westminster in London, as well as Indian writers Meena Kandasamy, as well as Madhushri Mukherjee, and there were, of course, a number of other writers as well, but altogether 850 academics worldwide, international academics. And this is published in the Guardian newspaper of July the 28th. Please go and check it. You see, sometimes people don't do their homework and they think that, people who are making statements, they're probably cooking up these figures, facts and figures. I don't do that because I'm a journalist myself. That is my bread and butter. I wouldn't have survived for 45 years as a journalist if I didn't do my homework. So I know what I'm talking about. The question for all of us is as to what do we do? I want to urge each and every one of you that nobody individually can solve this problem. I think people of goodwill, of faith, really need to engage the Canadian civil society. Often we talk amongst ourselves. It doesn't get very far. True, we can, express our emotions, which is very good, but I think we must engage the Canadian civil society. There are Canadians of goodwill. They are concerned about human rights. They are concerned about the suffering of people worldwide. We need to engage them, number one. Secondly, I'm not quite sure how many of you are students, but I think, can you have a show of hands? How many of you are students? It's only one? Anybody else? Everybody else is professional? Okay, two students. Very good, that's good. I think what we need to do is that, we need to motivate students for the sake of humanity and decency, okay? It's not against India, it's not against Pakistan, it's not pro-India, or pro-Pakistan, whatever. The fact is, people are dying in Kashmir. The fact is, women are raped in Kashmir. This is documented, so I don't think that, we should skirt this issue. Number three, I'm not quite sure how many of you have approached your MPs, local MPs. I think we ought to do that. But we should go with a realistic assessment. I don't think that we should have a great deal of assumptions or hopes that they're going to solve the problem of Kashmir. But what is required is that you at least inform them and notify them. And finally, I would urge each and every one of you, there is a United Nations Human Rights Council whose obligation it is to investigate these things. We have launched a petition on our own. We have sent more than, I think the latest count was something like 15,000 plus signatures on the internet, as well as direct petitions. We need to send a petition to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva and urge them to investigate these matters. Don't accept what we are saying. Send your team and investigate whether the allegations that are being made are correct or not, so that it would satisfy everybody. We need to put that pressure on the UN Human Rights Council so that they would undertake their own responsibilities. And I think a meeting like this is very useful because there are people that are genuinely concerned and you can do something about it. So please take your issue seriously and don't walk away from this meeting thinking that you have done your job by attending this meeting, because that's not enough. That's just a step. It's a very good step, very credible step. The organizers need to be congratulated, but please, this is an ongoing thing. It's not going to be resolved in one day, but we need to make a constant effort. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Incidentally, few Indo-Canadians also managed to show up in this Pakistani-Canadian arranged conference. Indo-Canadians strongly condemned the views presented by most speakers.
Namaskar, mera naam Sameer hai. My name is Sameer, and I'm here only to say quick few things. And I would like to bring to notice what Mr. Noor has said. इन्होंने बोला कि सेंटर जो है वहाँ पे उसने पावर दी हुई है आर्मी को, वो कुछ भी करें, जो कि ठीक नहीं है. ये बात उन्होंने जो कही वो सही नहीं है. सेंटर ने शुरू से 47 से हमारे वहाँ हमने कश्मीर को एक पावर दी हुई है जिसको आर्टिकल 370 कहते हैं, जिसमें कश्मीर के लोग ही कश्मीर में चीज़ खरीद सकते हैं, प्रॉपर्टी बना सकते हैं, बेच सकते हैं. ये दुनिया में कहीं नहीं है. एक देश हो उसके अंदर 2 रूल हों, ये कहीं नहीं है, ये सिर्फ कश्मीर में है. वो पावर जो है वो कश्मीरियों को दी गई है, और फिर भी कहें कि जी कश्मीर आज़ाद नहीं, ये तो डबल पावर है. और दूसरी मैं एक बड़ी जल्दी चीज़ बोलना चाहूँगा कि अभी वीडियो दिखाया गया था, उसमें बोला गया जी कश्मीर में बहुत ये कुछ हो रहा है, मार रहे हैं, कर रहे हैं. उनको बोलने की आज़ादी नहीं है. दिल्ली में खड़े होके कैपिटल में, अगर कश्मीर में इतना बुरा हाल है, दिल्ली में कैपिटल में खड़े होके एक लड़की इतना कुछ बोल सकती है? अगर कश्मीरियों को वहाँ बोलने की ताकत नहीं, पावर नहीं, दिल्ली में खड़े होके एक लड़की इतना कुछ बोल सकती है? सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट बोल सकती है, वर्ड यूज़ कर सकती है, मोदी नाम बोल सकती है. हमें ये ढूंढना चाहिए कि 47 से अब तक क्या रीजंस हैं कि वहाँ पे पीस नहीं आ रहा, बजाय इसके कि हम एक झूठा प्रोपेगेंडा करते चले जाएं और अपने बच्चों को मरवाते चले जाएं. हमें ये चीज़ रोकनी होगी, असलियत को जानना होगा. पीओके में क्या हो रहा है, यूट्यूब पे आप जाके पीओके डाल दीजिए. जिसने नहीं देखा, दर्जनों वीडियो हैं, देख लेना वहाँ पाकिस्तान क्या कर रहा है, और वहाँ के लोग क्यों नहीं पाकिस्तान के साथ जाना चाहते, क्यों छोड़ना चाहते हैं, और क्यों यहाँ आना चाहते हैं. No, सर मैं वही कह रहा हूँ ना, नहीं है ना आपको, नहीं एक मिनट. मिस्टर नूर ने कहा कि देखो आज वहाँ कुछ होता है, यहाँ पता चल जाता है. मैंने भी वही बताई. अब यूट्यूब पे एक डाल दीजिए, पीओके डाल दीजिए, आपको सारा पता चल जाएगा कि पीओके में क्या हो रहा है और क्या नहीं हो रहा. अब कुछ एक ये आता है कि हम वहाँ के लिए कर क्या सकते हैं. ये जो हो रहा है, राइट, लोग मर रहे हैं, डेफिनेटली मर रहे हैं, इसमें कोई वो नहीं है, झूठ नहीं है, हो रहा है, मर रहे हैं. पर ये 47 से हो रहा है. हाँ जी, कौन मार रहा है सर? ये नहीं, हाँ जी, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ सर, तो यही हमें सॉल्यूशन ढूंढना है ना सर. 47 से नहीं मिला, लोग मर रहे हैं, है ना. क्यों मर रहे हैं? अगर वही चीज़ हम बार बार रिपीट कर रहे हैं और लोग मर रहे हैं, तो उसका रीज़न क्या है? कहीं तो कुछ गलती हो रही है.
सर उसका रीज़न सिंपल ये है कि
सर उसका रीज़न ये है कि जो गलत प्रोपेगेंडा हो रहा है वो है उसका रीज़न. पाकिस्तान ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर, आज़ाद कश्मीर, वो तो सब सेफ है ना जी, वहाँ तो इंडिया नहीं है, कोई रोल नहीं. वहाँ मैं कह रहा हूँ आप पीओके डाल लीजिए वीडियो, एक के बाद एक वीडियो देख लीजिए सर. बलूचिस्तान में, हाँ जी, बलूचिस्तान में क्या हो रहा है, बलूचों के साथ क्या हो रहा है, आप देख लें. नहीं मैं आप वो कह रहे हैं, नहीं वो पैराडाइज, हाँ वो मैं वही कह रहा हूँ ना, वो कह रहे हैं ना ऐसा नहीं हो रहा, वो कह रहे हैं ऐसा नहीं हो रहा. मैं कह रहा हूँ सबके पास वीडियो है, यही डाल लें. नहीं वहाँ मैं नहीं जा रहा, वो लेके जा रहे हैं, मैं वो बात कर रहा हूँ सर. मैं वहाँ नहीं, मैं कहीं नहीं जा रहा, मैं कुछ नहीं. हाँ जी, थैंक यू सर. आई थैंक्स ऑर्गेनाइजर्स फॉर दिस, आई थैंक देम वेरी मच. पर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि सॉल्यूशन जो है वो अब जो है रियल प्रॉब्लम को समझना चाहिए और उसके रियल हल निकालने चाहिए, बजाय लेफ्ट राइट डंडा मारते रहें और झूठ बोलते रहें. राइट सर, और सर थैंक यू वेरी मच. थैंक यू
वेरी मच. मैं ये समझता हूँ कि हम सब लोग दोस्त हैं, एक दूसरे को जानते हैं और एक बात के लिए यहाँ आए. अगर हम ये समझ रहे होते कि इंडियन कश्मीर में जो कुछ हो रहा है ठीक हो रहा है, तो हमें यहाँ आने की ज़रूरत नहीं थी. देयर इज़ समथिंग, दैट्स वाई वी आर हेयर. जो लोग जो है वो प्रो इंडियन सोच रखते हैं, उनका अपना एक नुक्ता नज़र है, एक नज़रिया है, और उनको पूरा राइट बनता है एक डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री के अंदर टू बी प्रो इंडियन. इसी तरह प्रो पाकिस्तानी, इसी तरह प्रो इंडिपेंडेंस और प्रो समथिंग एल्स. उस बहस में बनने का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं. जैसे कि इमरान साहब ने बहुत खूबसूरत बात की है और बांगश साहब ने बात की है. बांगश साहब ने अपना पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू पेश किया जो इट्स ए वेरी नाउन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू फ्राम द पाकिस्तानी साइड. and we know that point of view for last 70 years. ٹھیک ہے. اس طرح جو عمران نے پوائنٹ آف ویو پیش کیا اس میں ایک تھوڑا سا نیا پن ہے کہ ہاؤ وی شوڈ گیٹ آؤٹ آف دس سائیکل. اور یہ جو صاحب کا نام مجھے نہیں آتا, انہوں نے جو بات کی یہ بہت ہی امپارٹنٹ, اصل بات ہی یہی ہے. یہ کیوں امپارٹنٹ ہے کہ ہمارا جھگڑا جو ہے اس اوپینین سے کشمیر کے اندر جو ہو رہا ہے وہ اسی اوپینین کے ساتھ ہے. اگر ہم سب کو اس طرح اگنور کریں گے یا ان کو بلیم کریں گے یا ان کو چپ کرا دیں گے تو اس کا مطلب ہے ہم مسئلہ حل نہیں کرنا چاہتے. جو فارمولہ بنگے صاحب آپ نے پیش کیا ہے ود ڈیو رسپیکٹ, یہ فارمولہ 70 سال سے پیش ہو رہا ہے اور آئندہ 100 سال تک بھی اسی طرح پیش ہوتا رہے گا, کچھ نہیں ہوگا. نتھنگ ول ہیپن. Being a Kashmiri, I have authority to speak on this. I have books on Kashmir. I have been in struggle in Kashmir. I have been in jail for several times for the Kashmir cause. And I am the part and parcel of this movement, so I have right to speak. الگ بات ہے کہ میری بات کسی کو پسند نہ آئی, الگ بات ہے, لیکن میں یہ اتھارٹی سے کہتا ہوں کہ اگر آپ یونائٹڈ نیشن میں یہ مسئلہ اسی طرح اٹھاتے رہیں گے, انڈین بیشنگ کرتے رہیں گے, نعرے لگاتے رہیں گے, رائٹ آف سیلف ڈٹرمنیشن کو الٹا پیش کرتے رہیں گے, تو یہ آئندہ 100 سال تک بھی کچھ نہیں ہوگا سوائے اس کے کہ 2-3 لاکھ کشمیری اور مر جائے گا. اور وہ بالکل اس طرح نا حق مارے جا رہے ہیں سڑکوں پہ. جو کوئی یہ کہتا ہے کہ جو کچھ انڈیا کشمیر میں کر رہا ہے درست ہے, اس آدمی میں ضمیر نام کی کوئی چیز نہیں ہے. خود انڈین پرائم منسٹر جو ہے وہ یہ بات دعوے سے اپنے ضمیر کے سامنے کھڑا ہو کر نہیں کہہ سکتا کہ انڈین فورسز وہاں پہ جس طریقے سے کشمیریوں پہ تشدد کر رہی ہیں, ٹارچر کر رہی ہیں. ٹارچر از سم تھنگ انٹرنیشنلی ہم اس کو کنڈم کرتے ہیں, اس میں انڈیا کوئی ایکسیپشن نہیں اور یہ کوئی ایکسکیوز نہیں. لیکن آپ جب یہ کہتے ہیں کہ ہیومینیٹیرین مسئلہ ہے تو آپ مسئلے کو, یا ہیومن رائٹس کا مسئلہ ہے یا سول لبرٹیز کا مسئلہ ہے, تو آپ مسئلے کو خراب کر رہے ہیں. کیوں کہ دس از ناٹ دی کویسچن آف ہیومن رائٹس اور سول لبرٹیز اور ہیومینیٹیرین کاز. یہ ایک پولیٹیکل ایشو ہے. ایک طرف جو ہے وہ انڈین آرمی کھڑی ہے, دوسری طرف کشمیری کھڑے ہیں. کشمیری کہتے ہیں کہ وی آر ریزسٹنگ وٹ ایور دی سچویشن از. انڈین یہ کہتے ہیں کہ ہمیں یہاں پہ مہاراجا ہری سنگھ نے خط لکھ کے بلایا تھا اور ہمارا کام ہے کہ ہم یہاں کھڑے رہیں اور ان کو روکیں. تو یہ ایک پولیٹیکل کانفلکٹ ہے. دس از ناٹ اے ہیومینیٹیرین ایشو. پولیٹیکل کانفلکٹ کو پولیٹیکلی جب تک آپ ایڈریس نہیں کریں گے کہ بھائی مسئلہ ہے کیا, اس کو کوئی ہیومینیٹیرین بنا کے پیش کرے گا, کوئی انسانی حقوق کو بنا. دس از ناٹ اے سویلائزڈ کائنڈ آف. یہاں یورپ میں جیسے یا نارتھ امریکہ میں ہو رہا ہے, وہاں پہ ایک کمپلیکس سچویشن ہے جو ہم فیس کر رہے ہیں. اس لیے میرا نقطہ نظر یہ ہے کہ اس کا واحد حل یہ ہے کہ ہم مسئلے کو پورے طریقے سے سمجھیں. وہاں پہ ایک ڈفرینس آف اوپینین ہے. کچھ لوگ جو یہ کہتے ہیں کہ انڈیا کا کشمیر جو ہے انڈیا کا انٹیگرل پارٹ ہے, جیسا کہ مودی صاحب نے ابھی فرمایا, تو اس کے پیچھے پوری ایک ہسٹری ہے. اس پہ پیچھے مہاراجا ہری سنگھ سے لے کے شیخ عبداللہ سے لے کے پوری ایک لیجسلیشن ہے, پورا ایک پروسیس ہے. اس کو سنو کہ اس کے اندر لاجک کیا ہے. جو لوگ یہ کہتے ہیں کہ ہمیں یہ پاکستان کی شاہ رہ گئے, اس کے اندر بھی ایک لاجک ہے, اس کو بھی سننا چاہیے. چونکہ 70 سال سے پاکستان ایک بات ایک ایز اے پارٹی ریپیٹڈلی اس کو دہرا رہا ہے, تو اس کو ہم یہ نہیں کہہ سکتے کہ یہ بالکل ہی جو ہے وہ بے بنیاد اوپینین ہے. تیسری اوپینین وہاں پہ جو ہے, تھرڈ اوپینین, جس کو انڈیپینڈنس کی اوپینین کہتے ہیں, اس کو دونوں طرف سے ہندوستان اور پاکستان دونوں غدار کہتے ہیں, جو کہ اصل وطن پرست اوپینین ہے. کہ جو لوگ اپنی انٹائٹلمنٹ اپنی دھرتی سے, اپنی ہسٹری سے, اپنی ثقافت سے اور اپنے جو ہے حق حکمرانی مانگتے ہیں وہ غدار ہیں, اور جو ان پہ قبضے کی بات کرتے ہیں وہ محب وطن ہیں. اب یہ ہے وہاں پہ کمپلیکسٹی آف دی ایشو, جس کو ہم سمجھے بغیر ایسے رٹی رٹائی باتیں اور اس طرح کی کر کے, تو ہم کیا کرتے ہیں کہ ہر 10 سال بعد کشمیریوں کو مروانے کے لیے کھڑے کر دیتے ہیں کہ ہم 20 کروڑ لوگ آپ کی پشت پہ کھڑے ہیں, جی آپ لڑ جاؤ. وہ جو ممالے کو کس سے لڑاتے ہیں, شاہین کو کس سے, باز سے. اس کا نتیجہ یہ نکلتا ہے جناب کہ وہ لوگ مارے جاتے ہیں, پھر اس کے بعد خاموشی چھا جاتی ہے, پھر 4-5 سال بعد وہ لوگ اٹھتے ہیں, پھر مارے جاتے ہیں. یہ ہم کشمیریوں کی جو 70 سال کی جدوجہد ہے, اب ہمیں اس کو کنکلوڈ کرنا چاہیے. اور اس کو صرف اس طریقے سے کنکلوڈ کیا جائے گا کہ ہم اس کو ایک پیسفل سیٹلمنٹ کے ذریعے, پیسفل نیگوسیشن اکراس دا بارڈر. چونکہ یہ کوئی 2 ایٹمی قوتیں ہیں, یہ جنگ کے ذریعے حل نہیں ہو سکتا. نہ کشمیری جو ہے وہ 7 لاکھ انڈین آرمی کو مار کے وہاں سے باہر نکال سکتے ہیں. تو اس کی پولیٹیکل سیٹلمنٹ یہ ہے کہ کشمیریوں کو ان کا رائٹ آف سیلف گورننس اور رائٹ آف سیلف ڈٹرمنیشن جو ہے اس کو تسلیم کیا جائے. اس کی شکل کیا ہے, اس میں کوئی محب وطنی یا غیر محب وطنی کی بات نہیں ہے. پریزیڈنٹ مشرف جو ہے اس کو آپ ڈکٹیٹر کہہ سکتے ہیں لیکن غیر محب وطن نہیں کہہ سکتے. وہ پاکستانی فوج کا جنرل اور پاکستان ملک کا جو ہے وہ صدر رہا ہے. اس نے جو فارمولہ پیش کیا تھا وہ فارمولہ یہی تھا کہ آپ کشمیریوں کو ان کا رائٹ آف سیلف گورننس جو ہے, جو کہ رائٹ آف سیلف ڈٹرمینیشن کی ایک شکل ہوتی ہے, وہ ان کو دیں, اور اس کے بعد آپ سرحدیں کھولیں, ان کے ساتھ جو ہے وہ تجارت جو ہے وہ شروع کریں, اور ود دی پیسج آف ٹائم ہم کسی نتیجے پہ پہنچیں گے. اس لیے آج کی سچویشن میں جو انڈین سیکیورٹی فورسز ملٹری اور پیرا ملٹری کی طرف سے جتنا کشمیریوں پہ تشدد ہو رہا ہے اس کی میں بھرپور مذمت کرتا ہوں. ایٹ دا سیم ٹائم کشمیر کے اندر رزسٹنس میں جو اسلامک فنڈامنٹلسٹ عنصر ہے, جو سینس لیس قسم کی ملیٹنسی ہے, اور جو اکراس دا بارڈر وانٹڈ قسم کے ٹیررسٹ ہیں جیسے حافظ سعید اور اس طرح کے لوگ جو تقریریں کرتے ہیں اور جلوس نکالتے ہیں اور لانگ مارچ کرتے ہیں, میں ان کو ایکولی کنڈم کرتا ہوں, اور میں کہتا ہوں کہ ان کا کوئی رائٹ نہیں پہنچتا کہ وہ کشمیر کا لیفٹ تک جو ہے ان کو زبان پہ نہیں لانا چاہیے. وہ کشمیریوں کے ساتھ سب سے بڑا ظلم یہ کر رہے ہیں کہ وہ کشمیر کا لیفٹ پروناؤنس کر رہے ہیں. دے ہیو نو رائٹ ٹو ڈو سو بیکاز دے آر وانٹڈ ٹیررسٹ. اور وہ ہماری جو جدوجہد ہے اپنے حقوق کے لیے, اپنے رائٹ کے لیے, اس کو وہ ٹیررسٹوں کے ساتھ جوڑنے کی کوشش کر رہے ہیں. اسی پہ ختم کرتا ہوں. تھینک یو.
وہاں آزاد کشمیر گئی, میں نیلم ویلی تک گئی. میں نے وہاں جا کر صرف اتنا کہا کہ ہم کشمیریوں کے لیے کچھ کرنا چاہتے ہیں, اور میں 5 دن رہی. آپ یقین کریں تیسرے دن 5000 لوگ مجھے ملنے کے لیے آئے, اور میں اپنا جائے نماز بٹھا کر کمرے میں چھپ کر رو رہی تھی کہ میں ان کے لیے کیا کروں گی. ان لوگوں میں سے ایک انسان نے مجھے یہ نہیں کہا کہ آپ ہمیں روٹی دیں, کپڑا دیں, یا آپ ہمیں مکان کے دیں, یا ہمیں پیسے دیں. انہوں نے کہا ہمیں خدا کے واسطے ہمیں سکلز دیں تاکہ ہم اپنے پاؤں پہ کھڑے ہو سکیں. آریان کی طرح کے لوگ میرے پاس آ کے کھڑے ہو گئے, اور انہوں نے کہا آپ ہمارے لیے کیا کر سکتی ہیں. تو میں نے اس کو دیکھا, میں نے اس کو پوچھا تمہیں کیا ہوا ہے, تم تو بالکل ٹھیک ہو. تو اس نے کہا کہ آپ میرے پاس آئے. میں اس کے ساتھ کرسی پر بیٹھی. اس نے بتایا اس کی ٹانگیں نہیں تھیں مائنڈ بلاسٹ کی وجہ سے. ایک بچہ لا کے چھوٹا سا انہوں نے میرے پاس کھڑا کر دیا. وہ 14 سال کا بچہ تھا جس کی صرف 2 فٹ ہائٹ تھی. آیوڈین کی کمی کی وجہ سے 14 سال تک وہ لوگ جو کیوز میں بند رہے تھے ان کے بچے اس طرح کے تھے. ہم لوگ صرف لڑائی کر رہے ہیں, ہم یہ دیکھ ہی نہیں رہے کہ مرنے والے تو مر گئے, جو ڈسیبل ہو گئے یا جو اس طرح کے بچے ہو گئے ان کے ساتھ ہم کیا سلوک کر رہے ہیں. پاکستان میں نے بات کی, وہاں پہ آپ یقین نہیں کریں گے وہی خواتین جو آپ کہہ رہے ہیں ریپ ہو رہی ہیں, کچھ ہو رہی ہیں, ان لوگوں کے ماں باپ نے ساری بچیاں میرے ساتھ کر دیں. پنجاب میں بیت المال میں نے انہیں اسکل ڈیولپمنٹ کے لیے داخل کروا دیا, جن کے بازو ہی نہیں تھے, ٹانگیں نہیں تھیں, ان کی آنکھیں نہیں تھیں. ہم لوگ کس بات پر یہاں پر جھگڑا کر رہے ہیں, ہم کیا سوچ رہے ہیں. وہاں مجھے نہیں پتا کہ وہ مسلمان تھے, وہ ہندو تھے, وہ کون تھے. ہر دیوار پر میں نے اتنے بڑے چھید دیکھے ہیں, انڈیا کی سائڈ پر بھی, پاکستان کی سائڈ پر, نیلم ویلی میں جو دریا جا رہا ہے اس سائڈ پر بھی اور اس سائڈ پر بھی. کائنڈلی ہم لوگوں کو یہاں پہ جھگڑا نہیں کرنا, ہم لوگوں کو ان کی سیفٹی کے لیے بات کرنی ہے. میں صرف اتنا ہی کہہ سکتی ہوں. تھینک یو ویری مچ.
You see every shade and color of the person who dies there. Muslims have died there, Hindus have died there. My neighbors used to be both a mix of Kashmiri Muslims and Kashmiri Pandits, and they both suffered equally. So my first request to the audience here would be to keep your personal religion out of it, because what happened in Kashmir is that every type of person suffered. There was a period of time where a lot, even non-Kashmiris who have come to Kashmir, they've out. Secondly, what I would request, if you're very sincere about this, also keep your nationalism out of this. Because you may be from Indian Army or Pakistani Army. You may be affiliated with a Pakistani political party or an Indian political party. If you come with that baggage to this conference or any conference, you're never going to be sincere. I have to do that myself. I have to keep the baggage out. If we talk about blame game, as someone who was born 2 years before the insurgency started in 87, and I grew up in the entire 90s in Kashmir, I can point my finger in any direction I want. I can blame any entity, whether it's the United States for their failure, the United Nations for its failure, for the Arab League for its failure, for the Pakistani establishment for its interference, for the Indian establishment for its occupation, for the Kashmiri mainstream organizations for hijacking the issue, and the Kashmiri separatist organizations for basically failing to address the root cause of the problem. We can play a blame game and start finger pointing in any direction. So let's take a step back from that, because as someone who has lived in Kashmir, studied the history from both non-Kashmiris, Indian writers, Pakistani writers, and Western writers, I can debate to death any point that you guys have. If you guys raise a question about Azad Kashmir or Indian Kashmir, Article 370, Pakistani Army, anything, I can debate it to death because I have studied this for 20 years. But I want all of us to take a step back from that. There was a lot of questions asked in this audience, what is the solution, what can we do, etc. There's very local solutions you can do. Obviously, if you are strongly moved by any topic, go talk to your MP, form an organization, etc. But at the larger scheme of things, I think we need to first of all agree that this is not a bilateral issue that India and Pakistan can decide on. They cannot come to an agreement and say, today we're going to give Kashmir to China. You can't do that. It's not a bilateral issue for India or Pakistan, because the central and the most instrumental party are the people of Kashmir. And when I say people of Kashmir, it includes the people in Azad Kashmir, it includes the people of Gilgit-Baltistan. If they want to be a party to this, it includes the people in the valley, it includes people in Jammu and Ladakh, it includes people of what used to be the former state of Kashmir. If we talk about right of self-determination, then people in all those areas, if they want it, should get it. The answer that comes out of that right to self-determination may not be something we like. The whole group may decide to go with India. The whole group may decide to go with Pakistan. The whole group may want to be under United Nations. The whole group may want to be independent. Regardless of that, the outcome may not be what you like, but just remember that the central party to this dispute is not India, it's not Pakistan. It's the people of Kashmir. Secondly, having said that, any Indian in this audience, any Pakistani in this audience needs to have a very, very open mind. The reason being, you can take it to the battlefield and try to solve it, but how many times have we tried that? 2, 3, 4? It's not going to happen anymore, right? There are nuclear states that cannot fight this militarily. So we need to look at how the Western nations have solved their political disputes. Whether the disputes in the Balkans, whether the disputes currently happening in Europe, whether it was the Irish problem, the Scottish problem, or the dispute we have in our backyard in Quebec. We need to learn some lessons from these disputes. One of the central things they have done is they have involved the people, the main stakeholders. Secondly, they've given them some form of right to self-determination, whether it's a plebiscite, whether it's a referendum, whether it's self-governance, etc. In case of India and Pakistan, my first suggestion, or my route to the first solution would be that both India and Pakistan demilitarize the region. Because under any army, it is almost impossible to have a fair discussion. It could be the Canadian army, it could be the American army. It doesn't matter the character of the army. Under any army, it is very difficult to have an impartial discussion because whoever holds the gun holds the power. That's the truth from the ground up. I've seen that myself in 20 years. Whichever army will step into Kashmir will dictate the ways there. So the demilitarization of Kashmir has to happen. It has to happen for a fair endgame, and it has to happen for the people of Kashmir as well. We cannot have a few million people on both sides with so much army guarding every step and telling them what to do. Secondly, we need to involve neutral observers to help facilitate this process, because both India and Pakistan have huge egos. They've almost made Kashmir a central point for themselves. India and Pakistan could be flourishing in trade right now. India and Pakistan could be moving way ahead in South Asia, but they're blocked by this Kashmir issue. Every time Indians and Pakistanis want to do something productive, whether it's opening trade, whether it's sports, whether it's Bollywood, there's always a blockage because of Kashmir. So involve international observers. Canada is a country that has a potential to be a neutral broker in Kashmir. Norway and Sweden, they have potentials to be neutral brokers in Kashmir. Let them come in, analyze the situation, and make suggestions. This is where I think if we have any influence in Indian and Pakistani circles, you need to go back and tell them, let's take a step back, let's get a broader international opinion, let's try to broker peace. Yeah, and I think this is where we need to be a little open-minded, because India and Pakistan alone cannot solve this problem. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, thank you.
So the reason I wanted to be a part of this conference was because I feel that the Kashmir conflict has always been between India and Pakistan, whereas it needs more international attention. And I'm glad a lot of you brought it up, that what is the solution we are taking forward. So we did end up drafting a petition, which we will pass around, and you can see if there's anything that needs to be altered. We've tried to keep the petition in line with humanitarian rights and the international law of human rights, and keeping the Indian Army and the Pakistan Army and the Indian side and the Pakistani side, or any territorial issue out of it. So hopefully nobody will have an issue with that. And beginning July 2016, the Kashmir Valley has once again witnessed the outbreak of a bloody conflict that caused 57 civilian killings and has left approximately 4,000 injured. According to the evidence, the Indian security forces have even started to apply lethal weapons. It is believed that the unrest appears to be the most uprising from the period of 2008 to 2010. Started in a distant 1947, the Kashmir conflict transformed into a long-existing territorial oppression where both India and Pakistan accused the other party of terrorism. Due to that, it is vital to encourage the United Nations to contribute to a peaceful resolution that prevents either side from human rights violations. According to the 4 Geneva Conventions of August 12, 1949, and Common Article 3 in particular, people who are not directly involved in war actions and the representatives of armed forces who have laid down their weapons must be treated in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is a war crime to intentionally make civilians a target of attacks. In addition, according to the United Nations Security Council Resolution 47, dated 21st April 1948, the government of India was obligated to plan the withdrawal of its armed forces with the commission assigned by the United Nations. Besides, India should have reduced its military presence to a minimum with preservation of small troops in forward areas only. Based on the above mentioned, we insist on making the United Nations concerned about the human rights violations that continue to exist in Kashmir. The United Nations must initiate peacekeeping mission and take measures to deter India to reduce its application of armed forces in the region of Kashmir. The world views Canada as an abode of peace, and as Canadian, we are deeply concerned about the human rights violations that are taking place in Kashmir presently. These reprehensible and continual attacks on civilians constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity. We are requesting that the matter be discussed in the Canadian Parliament to clear Canada's stance on human rights violations that the people of Kashmir are being subjected to on a daily basis, and to request for a United Nations referendum on the subject. We hope that this petition will be appropriately considered.
The participants of the conference were also asked to split into various group discussions in order to brainstorm about the Kashmir issue. In the end, group discussions were summarized.
Okay, so my name is Syed Raza, and I'll take the session from here onwards. So I want one member from each group to come and explain what they have discussed and what recommendations they have. So from group 1.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aisha Arshad, and over here I am with the group 1, and we have few suggestions for the Kashmir, like what we are discussing. Basically, first thing is that one of our representative, he told us कि पाकिस्तान और इंडिया के अलावा हम लोगों को क्या सोचना चाहिए कि कश्मीर का प्रॉब्लम जो है वो पॉलिटिकल एज वेल एज ह्यूमैनिटेरियन भी है, और इस इशू को हमने किस तरह उठाना है. इस इशू को हम 2 तरीक़ों से उठा सकते हैं. एक तो हमारी अवेयरनेस, जो हम लोग एज कैनेडियन यहाँ पर हमारी पब्लिक में तो अवेयरनेस है, पाकिस्तान में भी और इंडिया में भी, और कुछ मीडिया की हाइप है कि वो दुनिया भी कश्मीर को देख रही है, लेकिन हमारी आवाज़ ऊपर तक कैसे जा सकती है. जैसे कनाडा, स्वीडन और नॉर्वे के बारे में बताया गया है कि ये पीसफुल कंट्रीज़ हैं और पीस मेकिंग कंट्रीज़ हैं. हम लोग एज कैनेडियंस अपनी पॉलिटिकल अवेयरनेस को काउंसिल से, गवर्नमेंट एमपीज़, एमपीपीज़ और हमारी पार्लियामेंट से अपने पिटिशन साइन करवा कर अपनी बात ऊपर तक पहुंचा सकते हैं, यूएन लेवल तक. हमने ये नहीं देखना कि वहाँ पर कौन क्या कर रहा है, हमने सिर्फ वहाँ पर जो जुल्म हो रहा है उसको रोकने की बात करनी है.
like all of the problems, when we started discussing, we started trying to solve the Kashmir problem. So we talked about it for 5-10 minutes. And I think wo to kahin nahi jaane wali thi discussion, but we had this takeaway point from the group we had was that we need to create an awareness, like my esteemed friend said. So the awareness has to be at the community level, at your provincial level, at the federal level. So we can write to the MP, we can write a letter to the editor in the newspapers, and we can go to our mosques or to the churches and everywhere where we do mingle with other people, and we should try to make a point that this is an issue. Regardless of who's going to solve the problem of Kashmir, there are kids who are not going to school, there are people who don't have limbs, there are people who do not have the skill set to earn a respectable living. So the Canadian government, me being a bureaucrat, I know offers some programs, and I've actually told my group members too that if 9 of us write a letter to the Canadian government at the provincial and at the federal level, somebody will call back, and we can force them that, okay, Kashmir issue is a Kashmir issue, but let's start a 3-month vocational program for the Kashmiris so that they could earn a living. So there were other things we talked about, but the bottom line is that, the Kashmiris have a right to live the way they want to live, and we as Canadians should be able to provide them some kind of a skill level so that they could earn a living. That's about it.
First, we have to work to create that fair environment. By raising the issue in UN, saying India is occupying it, India saying Kashmir is being, infiltrated by the terrorists from across the border, that's not going to solve the problem. The problem is going to be solved by brave ladies like the one we have here, who goes to the ground, is working for the youth of Kashmir. So let us go from here, instead of filing petitions and stuff, let's form a group that we can work for, if we really care about Kashmiris. Yeah. If we are just doing a lip service that Kashmir mera hai and Kashmir aapka hai, then there's no point. We can do this again and again and again. So let's form a group so that we can actually support the education of the youth there, contribute in the development of the region so that they can actually rise up and do whatever they want to do. So that's my view. Thank you.
We have to concerned with our member of parliaments, either it is a provincial or it is a federal member of parliaments. Whenever we get an opportunity to meet them, we should discuss this issue. We should raise our concerns about the human rights violations in Kashmir. We are not talking about the solutions and other things, where to go, where not to go, only for the violation of the human rights, because at the moment they need humanitarian, on the humanitarian basis they need food, medicine, hospital equipments. So how we can help them, send them foods and medicine and hospital equipments to them. That's the main concern. We should at least request our member of parliaments to please raise this concern in the parliament and help the Kashmiris in this regard. Number 2, our member said that PM should raise this concern in the United Nations. Only for humanitarian grounds, because at this stage Kashmir needs help from us, so we can at least help them in these regards. So at least we can ask United Nations to provide them sufficient foods and medicine and hospital equipment.
So I think what needs to happen is we need both approaches. We need a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, because building skills, absolutely, incredibly necessary to empower people to be able to look after themselves. However, that takes a little bit of time. Right now, if we believe that there's atrocities happening, if we believe that there's, people, and please stop me if I get into, I'm not here to get into the side thing. If there is truly, people are being mistreated, then we need an immediate solution. We need, whether we call it a Band-Aid solution or whatever, we need an immediate solution, and that can really, truly only happen if we go up through our system, through our parliament. We are members of the United Nations, and get those resolutions implemented that were supposed to be implemented. And, an immediate sort of halt to any atrocities that may be happening on either side. And then absolutely, it's about empowering people, giving them, I always believe, the tools to, they say if you feed somebody, give somebody a fish, you'll feed them for a day. If you teach them how to fish, you'll feed them for life. But also, I keep hearing we need to come up with solutions, come up with solutions. Really, I think at some point we have to start talking about the root cause of the issue. And until those, not here, at some point, and yes, give the people the right to, self-govern, but at some point the root causes have to be addressed.
Our Prime Minister is visiting India soon, and I think in the future he's going to visit Pakistan as well. So it's a point for us to maybe raise that when our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, goes to India, goes to Pakistan, for that matter, goes to China or goes to UN, he needs to bring this topic up with all the parties, all the stakeholders. That's the least we can do, right? We do currently have a liberal majority, so most of your MPs are liberals. You can talk to them and they can go to the Prime Minister so that he can raise this issue again. The lady we had in our group also brought up a point that we need to get our information from unbiased and neutral sources, not necessarily social media. You need to get it from credible news sources. You need to look at who the writer is, do they have a bias or not, etc. And also when you look at social media sources, you need to see where it's coming from, is it neutral or not, etc. I think that was a summary of some of our suggestions. And yes, one of them was to have a measured response at the very least. If there's a protest, then counter it with, I guess, the same amount, don't go excessive. Just sort of neutralize the situation on the ground, to have a measured response as opposed to an exaggerated response. So I think that was a summary of our discussion.
TAG TV also took brief interviews from some of the speakers and participants. As we are standing in Kashmir conference organized by some Pakistani activists, and we have heard different views, and here I'm joined with a gentleman. I would like to ask him to introduce himself, and what is your take on this session?
Thank you, Gura Sahab. My name is Ravi Huda. I'm from India. It was a discussion, but what my take from here is we're trying to sensationalize issues which are, which everybody is already aware of, and they are blowing it out of proportion. What needs to be done is we need to concentrate on development of Kashmir, the people who live there. We need schools, education, and more that kind of stuff, so that they're not influenced by extremists. What is happening right now is, may it be any parties, they are being influenced by extremists. Now they say there's a 12-year-old boy, now this is again, I'm just giving an example, is shot by security forces. So he's not shot in his school. He's throwing stones or doing activities. Loss of human life, number one, loss of human life is reprehensible. It shouldn't happen. Nobody should die of any bullets or anything. But the solution to this is not to point fingers and say, Indian forces are doing so. Indian forces don't have to go inside people's, they're not doing that in Delhi. There are issues which can be done, resolved peacefully, and what should be done is, India and Pakistan, if they both want development, they both should concentrate on development instead of pointing fingers and, forcing extremist forces in either region. If we think, unbiasedly, we all need development. We all need good school. We all need good business. We need good leadership. That's all our future generation is going to ask for when we get old. My son's not going to ask me whether, you were able to, put a agenda on 50 countries or not. He will say, what kind of school education did you send me to? I guess that's the common issue for all of us. That's what we should concentrate on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ravi. So as we are here in Kashmir conference, and luckily we have few delegates from Indian Canadian diaspora as well, and one of those is Bharti ji. Bharti ji, would you like to introduce yourself, what you do here?
Sure. My name is Bharti Shuran, and I live in Mississauga. I have 2 kids. I run my own business with my husband, management consulting we do, and I just want to do something for human beings. When I came to this conference, I came with expectations that, I will meet some common-minded people who will think about, what can be done for the people in Kashmir. But unluckily, you will say, it was not the case, because everybody has emotions, everybody has sides, everybody has some biases toward their opinions. So it became a chaos in the starting, but in the constructive, not up to my expectations, which I came with. But yes, in the end, people became constructive. keeping their blame games on the side, their opinions on the side, and which was a good thing.
So, Bharti ji, as you said that you came here for some expectations, but you also noticed there is kind of one side of a story because the conference is organized by certain diaspora. So, based on that fact, are you still shocked that you heard, according to you, those were not the real facts?
I think whoever was talking, I felt they were not real facts on any side because no one has done their homework. They are talking from social media perspective. They are talking from media perspective, which we don't know how realistic information is that because everybody is biased. Everybody has their owners. Who is owning that? Social media, you can share anything you want. You can edit videos. You can write anything, and that spreads. Because everybody has their IQ level very low nowadays because they just want to spread the awareness without doing their homework. They just see one information, one-liners, and then they share, without doing homework if it's the reliable information or not. So yes, it was a sad part, but overall, I think people came with that mindset in the end part that yes, we should be doing our own homework. That was my key take from it. I talked to some people. I took one lady's information because she's running an NGO, because I want to understand actual reality, who is living there, and from a neutral point of view, not from a biased point of view.
Here we are joined today in Kashmir conference in terms of finding some solution from Canadian Kashmiri diaspora. Particularly in this conference, we see mainly people from Pakistani diaspora, but we are joined with Barrister Hamid Bashani, who belongs to Kashmir and whom we call real Kashmiri. So Bashani Sahab, you have heard the whole proceeding. What is your take on this kind of a conference, what we had today here in Mississauga?
Well, the most important thing which I noticed that people came out to support the people of Kashmir, but most of them were not clear that actually what is happening in the Kashmir. What kind of conflict is that? Is this the question of a political nature, question of human rights, question of civil liberties, or is simply a conflict which we have to resolve before we can address the issue of human rights and civil liberties? Secondly, as I said in the conference, that Kashmiri, they need support, but they do not need support from the Islamic fundamentalists or the kind of people who were trying to speak here against the Indian democracy and against the situation in India. So I told them that people like Hafiz Saeed and such kind of internationally wanted terrorists, when they come out in support of people of Kashmir, they are just killing the cause of Kashmiri, if any. So I think that was the most important point which I made in the conference. And I was really happy that there were so many people who did not want just India bashing or who did not want just support to Pakistan. They just wanted to come out with a clear point that we should listen to the Kashmiri people, look into the problem in depth and try to resolve it for the peace and progress in the subcontinent.
Thank you very much, Bashani Sahab. We are joined with another Kashmiri, Imran Noor, who's from Azad Kashmir, what Pakistan calls it, Rawalakot. So you are very active, Imran Noor, in terms of arranging protest against Indian side of Kashmir. So what is your take, particularly in terms of today's conference?
Tahir Saab, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'd like to thank you, your Tag TV, and other media and everybody who shown up today. I'm not here to oppose anyone here, like whoever is here. Being a Kashmiri, my concern is Kashmiri, innocent Kashmiri people. And whatever is going there, you know better than me. Everybody knows here, right? So what I want to say, I want to appeal through your media, through your camera, I want to appeal Canadian government, United Nations, Pakistani government, and Indian people, because I know Indian government is not listening, right? So I want to appeal Indian people, just come up, step up, and do your part to save innocent lives in Kashmir. It's a huge brutality. Even this is like 42nd day. It's curfew over there. They do not have enough food. they even do not have supplies. Roads are stopped. So if somebody stop you to have food and other important stuff to survive, so what you can do? So my question is to hold a peace-loving world. When it comes to Kashmir, why don't you raise your voice? Why you always stopped? So this is what I want to say, that come up, raise your voice a bit up towards Kashmir. And one more thing I want to appeal to Imran Khan, because I follow him, he's my leader, I consider him as my leader, and PTI. You are doing marvelous job towards every little thing. But what I feel, towards Kashmir, your voice is not enough. So even Imran Khan needs to raise his voice towards Kashmir. Whenever, if you notice, because I'm a Kashmiri, so I always notice when he say Balochistan, Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Sindh, he always missed Kashmir. So you need to add Kashmiris, because Kashmiris paid a lot. और एक और बात मैं जो कहना चाहूँगा कि कश्मीरीज़ पाकिस्तान से भी बड़े पाकिस्तानी हैं, जिस बात को मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि कश्मीरियों ने पाकिस्तान बनने से पहले 19 जुलाई 1947 को श्रीनगर के अंदर गाज़ी मिल्लत सरदार मोहम्मद इब्राहिम खान के घर, जो हमारे बानी प्रेसिडेंट थे, उनके घर में करारदाद इल्हाक़ पाकिस्तान मंजूर करके कश्मीरियों के फ्यूचर का तयन कर दिया था। उस वक्त के जब पाकिस्तान इस इंटरनेशनल दुनिया के ग्लोब पे एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता था। तो इससे ज़्यादा आपका क्या स्टेप हो सकता है किसी कौम का कि अपने फ्यूचर का तयन एक मुल्क बनने से पहले आप ये कर देते हैं कि जब पाकिस्तान बनेगा तो हम उसका पार्ट बनेंगे। तो ये कश्मीरियों की सोच है, और आपको पता है कि कश्मीरी किस कदर कुर्बानियाँ दे रहे हैं। तो ये पाकिस्तान की जो पॉलिसी है कि उनका खारजा अमूर का वज़ीर ही ना हो और वो कश्मीर को कहें कि कश्मीर हमारा पार्ट है और हम दुनिया के सामने इस चैलेंज को एक्सेप्ट करते और हम ये फ़ाइट करेंगे, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता। तो पाकिस्तान को अपने मौक़िफ़ पे डटे रहने के लिए जान डाल के आगे आना पड़ेगा, यूनाइटेड नेशंस में आना पड़ेगा, दुनिया के सामने आना पड़ेगा, ख़ुद स्ट्रॉन्ग होना पड़ेगा और कश्मीरियों को आज़ादी मिल सकती है। अदरवाइज़ ये ब्रूटैलिटी चलती रहेगी, जिसके हम मुतअम्मल नहीं हैं।
So Aryan is the key person behind this conference. So Aryan, now the conference has ended. So what is your take about the proceeding of conference?
Well, I think it started a bit rough. But the point was to get everybody to only one focal point, and that is a humanitarian point of view. And I'm glad that at the end of the day, we all agreed upon having a humanitarian approach towards Kashmir. So really glad and very happy to see that a lot of people who came in with different mindset and a body set and different political views, at the end when they were leaving, they all agreed upon forming some sort of a Canadian group, bilateral, from Indian side, from Kashmiri, then Pakistani, then from all religions, where we can actually look at it from a humanitarian point of view and look at a humane solution. So I'm really happy that at the end of the day we could come to the focal point, and there was the perspective and objective as well, to bring everybody to the humanitarian point of view.
Has somebody discussed in the conference in terms of allegedly, well, what India says, Pakistan's involvement in Kashmir, and they said that according to that, all those casualties are happening?
There was quite a bit of name calling because we had attendance from Indian side and Pakistani side. And as I said, we started rough because a lot of people could not grasp the situation that what we are about to talk. And they started with their traditional name calling that, oh, India is doing this and Pakistan is doing it. But after the aggression ran out, and we start talking sense and we start bringing people in and we start talking about human lives. So regardless you're from India or Pakistan or whichever religion, when you talk about human life, everybody has a soft corner because we talk about our kids, our parents, our friends. And eventually at the end of the day, we all agreed upon it that human life must be saved. Regardless it's being lost by whoever. And whoever is responsible, it's none of our business. Our business is to save lives, regardless which part of the region or which part of the religion or which part of the government. Sir, organization तो ताहिर भाई कोई ऐसा नहीं है, लेकिन एज अ ह्यूमैनिटेरियन ग्राउंड्स पे ऐसा फील हुआ कि हमें अब इस डिस्कशन को लेना चाहिए। बहुत बात हो रही थी तो कुछ लोग हिचकिचा रहे थे, डर और खौफ भी था, तो हमने कहा क्यों ना इसको हम बाहर ले।
किस बात का डर और खौफ?
असल में बात यह है कि हम लोग ایک دوسرے کو کریڈٹ بہت کم دیتے ہیں. میرا خیال ہے کہ جو کشمیر ایک ایسا ایشو ہے یا کوئی بھی ایشو ہے, جیسے پیلسٹائن ایشو تھا یا کچھ بھی ایک آپ کا انسانی حقوق کے ہیومن رائٹ کا ایشو ہوتا ہے, اگر ہم ڈسکس کریں تو اس میں خوف کی کوئی ایسی چیز نہیں ہے, اور ہمیں ضروری ہے کہ ہم آگے بڑھ کر کوئی بھی چیز غلط دیکھیں تو اس کے بارے میں سوچیں کہ کیسے اس کو صحیح کیا جا سکتا ہے. سوچنا اور کرنا ہمارا کام ہے, آگے جو رزلٹ آتا ہے وہ اوپر والا بہتر جانتا ہے.
دیکھیے مبصرین اور کرٹکس اس بات پہ بھی بات کر رہے ہیں, کہتے ہیں جب ہیومن رائٹس ایبیوزز کی بات ہوتی ہے تو پاکستانی ڈائسپورا سے تعلق رکھنے والے لوگ کشمیر کی یا پیلسٹائن کی بات کرتے ہیں, مگر بذات خود پاکستان میں ہیومن رائٹس ایبیوزز کا ایک نہ ختم ہونے والا سلسلہ ہے. مائنورٹیز کے ساتھ وہاں پر عرصہ دراز سے کوئی اچھا سلوک نہیں ہو رہا. بلوچستان میں ڈسپلیسمنٹ ہے لوگوں کی, اور اس میں ایلیجڈلی کہا جاتا ہے اور شواہد بھی موجود ہیں کہ اسٹیبلشمنٹ انوالو, تو اس پر آپ کے گروپ بات کیوں نہیں کرتے؟ کشمیر پہ کیوں بات اتنی زیادہ کی جاتی ہے؟
شواہد کی نہیں ہے, اور ایک دوسری چیز میں آپ کو کہوں گا کہ اگر ایک چیز کہیں غلط ہو رہی ہے تو اس کا مطلب یہ نہیں کہ دوسری جگہ بھی وہ چیز غلط کی جائے. ٹھیک ہے جی, انسانی جان چاہے وہ پاکستان میں ہو, چاہے مائنورٹی کی جان ہو, چاہے وہ ہندوستان میں ہو یا کشمیر, دنیا کے کسی بھی کونے میں ہو, ایز اے ہیومن رائٹ ایکٹیوسٹ یا ایز اے انسان ہمارا فرض بنتا ہے کہ ہم اس کے لیے آواز اٹھائیں. ابھی جو آج ریسنٹ جو کانفرنس ہوئی ہے وہ اس وجہ سے ہوئی ہے کہ جب ریسنٹ کرفیو, اب میں تو چیزیں رپیٹ نہیں کروں گا کہ کتنی ہلاکتیں ہیں, کیا کشمیر کی اسٹوری ہے, سب کو پتہ ہے. خالی کنسرن یہ ہے کہ اگر ایز اے ہیومن رائٹ ایکٹیوسٹ یا ایز اے انسانیت کے طور پہ ہم اس کو لیے کوئی ایسی چیز کر سکیں کہ وہ ہیومن رائٹ وائلیشن رک جائیں. اگر پاکستان میں وہ وائلیشن ہے تو وہ بالکل ڈیفینیٹلی ہر حال میں رکنی چاہیے, کہ انسان تو ہر جگہ پہ ایک ہی ہیں. کشمیر میں ہو رہی ہیں تو بالکل رکنی چاہیے. یوزلی کشمیر از ہائی لائٹڈ ایٹ دا مومنٹ, زیادہ ہائی لائٹ ہوا ہے, تو لوگ کوشش کرتے ہیں اس کے بارے میں سوچنے کے لیے, لیکن پھر بھی ڈرتے ہیں کیونکہ انڈیا اور پاکستان کا ایشو آ جاتا ہے. یہاں پہ ہماری تاجر برادری اس سے دور رہتی ہے کہ کہیں ایسا نہ ہو کہ ہمارے کنیکشنز کٹ ہو جائیں. تو بہتر یہی ہے کہ, لیکن میرے خیال سے جب ہم کسی ایشو کو گریز کرتے ہیں اس وجہ سے کہ دوسرا ناراض نہ ہو جائے تو ہم اس کی انسلٹ کرتے ہیں. اگر ہم اپنی انڈین پبلک کی طرف دیکھیں اور تو میرا خیال ہے کہ انسانی حقوق پہ وہ بھی ہمارے ساتھ ہی کھڑے ہوں گے. اور اگر ہم پاکستانیوں کی طرف دیکھیں تو میرا نہیں خیال کہ کوئی پاکستانی آپ سے کہے گا کہ جی پاکستان میں مائنورٹی کے ساتھ برا حشر ہونا چاہیے, یا بلوچستان میں کیا ہو رہا ہے, یا کراچی میں کیا ہو رہا ہے, یا کشمیر میں یا آزاد کشمیر میں کیا ہو رہا ہے. تو اٹس آل دا مومنٹ. آج کشمیر کانفرنس ہے, اگر کل کوئی اور کانفرنس ہوگی اور وہ لیجٹ طریقے سے ہوگی, ناٹ پرو اور اینٹی, ہم اس میں بھی ساتھ کھڑے ہوں گے بھائی. آج ہم نہ اینٹی انڈیا کھڑے ہیں, نہ ہم اینٹی پاکستان کھڑے ہیں, نہ ہم اینٹی, وی آر جسٹ اینٹی وائلنس. اگر کوئی بلوچستان کی بات کرے گا اونلی آن وائلنس اینڈ دا بیسڈ آن فیکٹس تو بالکل ڈسکس ہونا چاہیے اور اس میں کوئی برائی نہیں ہے. لیکن اگر ایجنڈا یہ ہوگا کہ ہم اینٹی کنٹری بات کریں تو وہ اس سے پھر جو مظلوم لوگ وہاں پر ہیں ان کے ساتھ ناانصافی ہے. اسی طرح اگر ہم کشمیر میں کھڑے ہو کے پرو پاکستان بات کریں تو جو کشمیری ہیں ان کے لیے ناانصافی ہے, چاہے ہم پرو انڈیا بات کریں. تو آئی سی تھنگز ایز این انڈیویجول بیسس اینڈ وی ول کیپ گوئنگ آن.
بہت شکریہ آریان, آپ کے شکر گزار ہیں. ناظرین, جیسا کہ آپ نے بات چیت سنی آریان حسین کی, جو اس کانفرنس کے بنیادی محرک ہیں, اور ان کا موقف ہم نے سنا, اور یہ وہ باتیں ہیں جو ہم اس راؤنڈ ٹیبل کانفرنس میں آپ کے سامنے لا رہے ہیں, اور امید کرتے ہیں کہ آپ کے ساتھ ہم کچھ اور دوستوں کی آراء بھی شیئر کریں گے. طاہر گورا, ٹیک ٹی وی, کیمرہ پرسن صابر گایا. Kiran Noman is very active in arranging this conference, and she's the one who offered her office place for this cause. When I say cause, it means conference. So Kiran, what is your take about this conference, and what were your expectations, and what is the outcome you think, and what should be the outcome?
First of all, what is my take? My take is that Kashmir is not a piece of land. It's a land where people inhabit it, they live, and they have all the right to decide what their future should be. I'm not talking about any other country besides Kashmir. I have nothing to say about India. I have nothing to say about Pakistan or any other countries of the world. I'm talking about only Kashmir, that Kashmir is suffering, it's bleeding, and that should stop. I am a mother, and I bleed when I see that kids are dying over there unnecessarily, and when that happens, then that is wrong. What was I expecting? I was expecting not a lot, because a lot of efforts have been done, and we thought that we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There has been a lot of discussions and pointing fingers, he said, she said scenarios, people tossing stones at one another. We were hoping that this would not happen and that we would sit and come up with solutions that is acceptable to everybody. Things did heat up, but then that was good because when things heat up, people do vent out their emotions. When people did vent out their emotions, things fizzled down, and then we were able to come up with pragmatic approach, which was happy. We are very happy that we did come up with certain solutions. Let's see what happens. We do have a petition in hand. We are hoping to take it to our MPs, and we are hoping that they would take it to the Parliament. We won the Parliament because we know that CEDA is working for Canada, and it does provide human aid to other countries that do have emergencies, countries that do have declared war zones. So we are hoping that CEDA would take notice, and it would provide human aid and medical supplies to people suffering in Kashmir.
I'm joined with Dr. Aisha. And Dr. Aisha, what is your take on conference today?
This conference is amazing, and I just want to say a few words. If you want to spread some kind of message, some kind of like a voice, you have to be very polite first, and then you have to convey your message in the in some kind of mannerable point of view. But if your message is not conveying like a positive in the positive way, you have to be very polite and all the stuff, mannerable. So this is the thing, message I just want to convey. This is a few words. Okay, you have to develop the communication skill first. Okay, what kind of communication we are using. If you are using aggressive words, aggressive things, automatically will coming back that these aggressive words coming back to us. So just be a peaceful manner, and that automatically the outcome will come a peaceful way. Thank you.
Seema is very active in terms of raising voice about Kashmir issues. So Seema, what is your take about today's conference?
Well, I would like to say that the way we are living under one roof in Canada, and we are from all over the world, we have respect, and there is peace and there's respect because of good governance as well as because of the security. So I think same things should be applied, same rules should be applied for that region as well. And for that, I believe United Nations has to do something, because other than that, this is never going to be resolved. Because people from Kashmir, they are suffering, for a long time. And in 1947, when Kashmir was already declared as a part of Pakistan, so that should have been honored. And because of that, the dispute is going on and on. People are now desperately, looking forward for some kind of help. So this is what I think, that we should all work on it and try to bring peace in that region.
So we are joined with Arzu Gul. She's a famous singer here in Toronto. So Arzu, you performed in Kashmir Welfare Society's Eid dinner as well. So what is your observation in today's conference?
मैं पीस और अमन के बारे में ही बात करना चाहूँगी. जैसा कि हमारे ग्रुप 1 में हमने बैठकर बात किया था कि हम जहाँ पर 200 लोग हों या 2 लोग हों, जो भी आवाज़ उठा रहे हैं उसको वहाँ तक पहुँचना चाहिए जहाँ पहुँचना चाहिए. जो तो बड़े पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज़ हैं वो बड़े लेवल पर डिसाइड होंगे. जो हम यहाँ पर करना चाह रहे हैं उनकी हेल्प, जिन्होंने अपने माँ बाप को खो दिया, जिन बीवियों ने अपने शौहरों को खो दिया, जिन शौहरों ने बीवियाँ खो दी, जिन बच्चों ने माँ बाप को खोया और माँ बाप ने बच्चों को खो दिया, उन तक अगर हेल्पिंग हैंड पहुंच सकता है, या जो हम यहाँ बैठकर एक्चुअल प्लान कर रहे हैं उसको प्रैक्टिकली हम कैसे उसको अमल में लाएंगे, तो वो मेरी आवाज़ ये है कि उसको आप लाया जाए. तो बाकी तो एज़ बीइंग सिंगर आपने देखा कि कश्मीरियों के लिए मैंने गाया था तब भी, तो अभी भी मैं यही कहूँगी, दूर दुनिया का मेरे दम से अंधेरा हो जाए, हर जगह मेरे चमकने से उजाला हो जाए. बस उस स्पिरिट को लेकर अगर हम साथ में चलें तो मेरे ख्याल से we are successful. बहुत शुक्रिया.
So we just spoke to a couple of delegates in this Kashmir conference, which was organized mainly by Pakistani Canadian diaspora activists who are talking about Kashmir awareness recently, and we had their opinion, but this seemed that there were not delegates from Indian sides many. We aired their opinion as well. There were just 2, and in terms of solution, what we see, we are not sure. Tahir Gora, Tag TV, with camera person Sabir Amin Gaya.
#1 multicultural channel. This is Tag TV.